Yes, guys, welcome back to another week of the Weekly Insight. It's not even called the Weekly Insight, is it? It's called the Weekly Roundup. I'm getting our newsletter mixed up with it, but there's a cheeky plug for our newsletter.
Cheers.
We, episode 33. Apologies for last week. We actually didn't manage to get an episode out. Will was feeling under the weather, and we did actually record it, but he accidentally deleted it because he was just, his mind weren't there. But hey, episode 33 is here for you guys, and we've got a lot to talk about. What, you feeling better this week though, Will? Yeah?
Much better, much better. I was on antibiotics last week. I actually nearly passed out after the episode and literally just shut my computer, and then that was still recording, and then it corrupted the file. So
Yeah, it weren't just he didn't just have a cold. It was pretty bad what he had. But anyway, we'll jump into the news. Starting off with BlockFi, they filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Now, this doesn't really surprise me too much anyway, because everyone kind of thought something was going to come out on the back of this anyway, because BlockFi had close ties with FTX. As you can see here, they owed $275 million to them, and they actually, pretty sure they paused withdrawals throughout November, so people kind of saw this one coming. And like, when you look at the price action on Bitcoin, we'll quickly go over to it. We didn't really see too much in terms of like red candles. The market did dip momentarily, but nothing too drastic. Like I said, people kind of saw this coming anyway. But another week, another bankruptcy. I feel like we need to make that a series on your YouTube, because that's all we seem to be talking about right now. But on top of that, they still owe $30 million to the SEC, which is part of their, I think it was $100 million that they got fined earlier on this year. So not really a surprise, is it, really, Will? But another bankruptcy is still not good news, is it?
no, I think it's like we could see it coming. It's just like what happens next. I think even the markets had like priced all this in. To be honest, all this like fear was all priced in like June, July. That's why we started to come down. Obviously, we hadn't priced in FTX because no one really saw that coming. The FTX came down, pushed us down to where we are now. Whether we have any more contagion, it's another story. Like with Genesis and Gemini, which we don't think we're talking about this week, but because they've kind of gone quiet. But that's the next part, or if there is any further downside to come, that's where I think it comes from, as long as it's not from Tether. But the reason that I don't think we've seen too much of a push down in price is because I think it's already priced in.
This is what I mean. I think things like this have been priced in, but obviously, like you just mentioned there, if you see anything come on the back of Genesis, anything come out on the back of Binance, which we're going to speak about in this episode as well, and a potential USDT collapse, then you'll see further capitulation. But things like this, people kind of known about it, so like you said, it's been priced in. But we'll move on to something that kind of did come out on the back of it, and the BlockFi actually went on to sue Bankman-Fried for Robinhood shares. Bankman-Fried, through the holding company, pledged his stake in Robinhood as collateral for a loan. So I've read briefly into this. If we go on here, it says the complaint says BlockFi and Emergent Fidelity Technologies entered an agreement on the 9th of November to guarantee a payment by an unnamed borrower pledging an unnamed stock as collateral. So the unnamed borrower, I think, is Alameda Research, who obviously went insolvent, and then the pledged uncommon stock as collateral was SBF stocks and shares in Robinhood.
Yeah.
And obviously, when FTX collapsed, SBF went to try and raise some funds, sold X amount of his Robinhood shares, and basically violated the terms and conditions of this like loan kind of thing. So he's got a lawsuit slapped on his desk for that, and it's a fairly new story. Nothing too much has actually come out of it, so I guess we'll report as and when we get information on it. But it's not good news for SBF, and I think we're going to speak about him later on in the episode anyway. But I feel like we've spoken so much about him over the past few weeks, and you guys should already know our opinion on that guy, so we'll just keep that at that. Another small little domino, well, I say small, it's not actually quite that small. Crypto bank Silvergate says its BlockFi digital asset deposit exposure totals less than $20 million. So just trying to highlight the fact that obviously people saw BlockFi come in, but there are still dominoes falling around BlockFi and all that kind of stuff. So just keep your eye on it. Obviously, their shares went down 11% on Monday, which obviously isn't good for Silvergate themselves, but like we said in the previous tabs, it's already been priced in really, so it's nothing too major, but just something to keep your eye on.
Yeah, and if you want my honest opinion on all of this, it's like I think everyone's just trying to use the fear in the market to find themselves clicks and views. even including the news reporters. Like every single time, like we're obviously going to see some things like this, and then people are putting like massive headlines up, and so are content creators, and like putting things like Qcoin. I'm not saying Qcoin solvent or insolvent, but people are like showing pictures of like, oh, they're offering 200% APY on their staking, so they must be insolvent. They're trying to grab liquidity. No, actually, that was actually like a picture from their dual-sided staking, which pretty much all centralized exchanges and decentralized exchanges offer return on investment like that. It's not just Qcoin. People are just like taking people's emotions, manipulating them to try and get clicks and follows. So now more than ever, be careful of like falling into that FUD. You're probably like feeling upset like emotionally about your investments. You're probably seeing like more FUD over and over. People are telling you it's coming lower. It's like a cycle. The same at the top. When you're at the top, people are like screaming buy, we're going to 100k, we're going to 200k, we're going to a million. When you like coming towards the bottom, I'm not saying this necessarily is the bottom, but I'm just saying that when you're coming towards that sort of area, people are so over bearish. That's what gets views, that's what gets clicks, that's what emotions want you to do, that's how emotions want you to feel. And they call for lower price targets every single time you come down to that lower price range. They call for something lower. So the bottom's going to come in at some point. I've actually talked about it quite a lot in the newsletter, where I think liquidity is going to come back into the market, and I think it's going to come in Q1 to Q2 of next year. That's not where I think the bottom's going to come. That's where I think liquidity is going to come. Markets are forward looking, so they will look forward to that liquidity and start to price the bottom in and around when they find appropriate. So I don't think a bottom's far away if we've not already seen one.
Agreed, definitely agreed. Just on the topic of FUD, because I don't think I've actually included it in one of the tabs. So instead of wasting time trying to find it, I'm just gonna bring up a point here, because I'm just reading from my phone, by the way, guys. That's why I'm looking down. But Whale Alert, tweeted out earlier on this week saying that Binance moved 127,000 Bitcoin, I think it was, transferred from a Binance wallet to an unknown wallet, and a lot of people jumped on this as potentially FUDding Binance. Now, this kind of covers that point exactly. Like, we also had Cryptoinsightuk, I think it was, his tweeters, and he was saying, again, I'm trying to get it up on my phone, he went on to say there's a 0% chance any auditor will require Binance to transfer $2 billion worth of funds to prove their holding, CZ is blatantly lying, etc., blah, 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 blah. He might be right, but this is exactly highlights your point. People are trying to use people's fear in their favor. So obviously everyone's looking for as much information as they can get right now, because there's so much uncertainty out there in the market. So people are trying to get a bit of insight in terms of where the market could be heading. And then when you get Twitter accounts like this tweeting stuff like that, it instantly gets retweets, likes, etc. So like Will said, just be careful what you're reading, because there's a lot of it out there right now.
And he might be right, Cryptoinsightuk, with that. It's the old Crypto Whale account, but he also might be wrong. And in the past, when you're not sure about something, you don't just tweet about it. And the only reason it gains traction right now is because people's emotions are to the downside. If we were in a bull market and he said something like that, people would be like, "Oh, shut up!" But because we're in a bear market, everyone's like, "Oh my god, yeah, he's right." Binance definitely insolvent. I know we're going to maybe go on to talk about them, but anyway, let's get on to the next point. But
yeah, next topic. Bit of good news actually amongst all that bad news to start off with, but this is something we spoke about. I can't remember which week it was. It was a few weeks ago now, where when it was announced, kind of thing. But it's now in. They've started it. You can join a list to get onto it as well. But Fidelity's commission-free Bitcoin and Ethereum trading's started, which again we listed all the benefits in the previous episode. Fidelity are absolutely massive. In fact, this is why it's so significant. They've got 40 million individual investors, $9.6 trillion assets under administration, $3.6 trillion total discretionary assets, and they average 3.1 million daily trades. So that's as of September 30th, 2022. So you can just see the scale of Fidelity and what this actually means for crypto as a whole. When we go into this next bull cycle, the next mass adoption phase, when people find out that it's commission free, they're more likely to get involved. So what this is doing, basically, it removes a lot of barriers for your everyday trader to get involved in crypto. So this is why it's so big. And when you couple that with the absolute size of Fidelity, you can see why I'm personally, Will, is bullish on this topic as well. But like I said, we've reported on this before, so not going to go into too much depth on it. But it's still bullish news. It's live. It's the list is available now. So I think you just have to literally jump on their website and be on
Yeah,
the list kind of
and
thing.
I think it's cool there that it says like with as little as $1. So that's pretty cool as well. Like if you go back
Yeah.
up to where there, like as little as $1. Like I thought Fidelity was mainly institutional facing, but if this is like retail facing as well, for $1 you can like still get involved in crypto, which is like the whole point in crypto in the first place. In my opinion, is like anyone can get involved from anywhere. So it's good to see even huge like corporations like $9.6 trillion in assets under management still catering for the small guy. And there was a second thing that I don't think we've talked about here, is like that I tweeted about yesterday. I think it's like the biggest securities dealer in the world just got registered for a crypto exchange in the UK, but I can't remember their exact name. Like it was an abbreviation, but I tweeted it out, but yeah, I can't remember.
I'll find it. Yeah. If not, check out Cryptoinsightuk UK Twitter. Everything's on there. But yeah, another thing on top of that, just to finish off, is that it just kind of gives us a bit of confidence as well, knowing that someone as big as Fidelity are more than happy to jump into the crypto space, etc. They obviously see it as a long-term investment / project themselves. So it fills us with a bit more confidence amongst this this price action, all this bankruptcies that are going on. We've got something coming out like this, so very positive. But moving on from that, we'll visit Elon Musk again. He's been pretty quiet since his Twitter takeover, but he seems to have found himself in the news again this week. And I'll go on to why it affects crypto specifically. But Apple were apparently threatening to boot Twitter from the iOS App Store. This would have been, if this did happen, so I'll just go into, I might as well tell you now, just because I've got a tweet up here. He's gone on to visit Apple's HQ, and he said it was just a big misunderstanding, and it's all clear kind of thing. So like it's not happening, but we'll still keep an eye on it. But it would have pretty much ended Twitter if Apple did decide to remove it from the iOS App Store, because I'm pretty sure Google would have followed suit. And this is what me and Will were kind of speaking about off camera. Why was this initiated? Is someone trying to mute Elon Musk a bit because obviously he's very pro freedom of speech and all that kind of stuff. Like we've seen with Kanye West recently, his Twitter account's been disabled because he's been tweeting things that people don't want him to say, basically. And you can see it with the same thing with Andrew Tate as well. So in my head, I was thinking, is something going on behind the scenes? Has someone told Apple to threaten Elon to kind of make him almost like mute him slightly, just tell him to calm down almost? But it would have absolutely ruined Twitter. And the reason why it would have been so detrimental to crypto potentially is because, as you can see here, when I think we actually mentioned this when he was actually taking over Twitter, it would potentially bring 200 million users to crypto, because there's a lot of speculation that Elon was going to bring in some sort of like Doge tipping system into Twitter. Whether that happens or not, that's still obviously speculation right now. But he's very pro crypto. He's open to the technology. I'm sure that he's going to incorporate it into Twitter itself. So the fact that it's still here, it's still big, is good for crypto. That's what I'm trying to say here. But
yeah, agreed.
There's nothing too much to say in regards to that, because like I said, it seems to be all sorted out and resolved. Moving on to some, and again, bit negative but a bit positive, as I will explain to you guys in a second here. But crypto aside, this is absolute madness what's going on in China at the moment. I'm sure a lot of you have seen clips on Twitter about actual clips of the protest itself, people actually getting beat up, hurt, not good to see. But what does this mean for the markets? Well, you can see, I think I've not included a tweet here, but basically the reason that they're protesting is because, well, to my knowledge anyway, is that there was a fire in some sort of state, and the firefighters couldn't get to the specific site in time due to COVID restrictions, and it caused, I think it was 12 people. I think it says it in this article somewhere.
Yeah,
so amount of people died from.
I think from my understanding, like with their zero COVID policy in China, people are literally getting like welded into their flats, and like there was a fire inside the flat, and so the firefighters couldn't get in and the people couldn't get out, so they literally burnt alive. And then off the back of that, people have started rioting in the streets, which I think is extremely brave from the Chinese people, because they live in a different society to us, and they can literally like be killed for not being like positive towards their like leader Xi Jinping. But at the same time, it's really hard to know what is and isn't true coming out of China, because they also control the media. So everyone said, oh, these are like leaked videos, but I think it's hard to know if things get leaked on purpose or by accident. whether this is true and whether it isn't true. Obviously people are rioting, but like obviously it could be staged, it might not be staged, like all of it's just like up in the air. But then I don't know if we go on to the next point, but one thing that I did see, and I have wrote about it in the newsletter this morning, is that it's then triggered some regions to go like to be then like lockdowns are restricted completely. I don't know if it's a trigger of these protests or whether it's just happening coincidentally, but people are saying that Xi Jinping's weak, losing control, but like he's, whatever it means, if we've got regions opening back up, that means they could be opening back up for production. That in turn is going to bring down inflation, because it's going to mean there's like less issue on supply chains. So it's another positive for the inflation narrative, which, you know, and what I think the inflation's topped, and I will just stick to my guns on that, because I don't think anything's changed in terms of supply and demand, and I think that commodity prices are much lower than what we've seen.
Yeah, so it is quite a significant story, to be fair. Just like Will said, they're mainly due to the fact of the whole supply chain issue, and we've seen what the repercussions have been on a tightening on the Chinese supply chain issues. It's almost put us in the situation we are in now with inflation, so it's good to see that they're potentially lifting it, and in my opinion it's a direct result of these protests. And whether it shows weakness of the government is again down to your own personal opinion, but I think it is probably. He's kind of seeing that I probably shouldn't be doing this, because it's a massive uproar. Like, I've seen so much, like you said, you've got to take everything with a pinch of salt, with what comes out of China, because the way they censor certain things. But just keep your eye on it, guys, because it could potentially have significant effects for any market, not just crypto specifically, but even your traditional markets as well. But we'll move away from the China story and move to our good friend Powell as well, who's kind of almost, again, something we've wrote a lot about this in the newsletter this week, so we won't go into too much in terms of what we think, because we'll save the alpha for the newsletter. But basically he kind of mentioned a potential slowdown in the rate hikes in a speech that he made, and markets reacted very positively to this as well. We've even had, I think Elon Musk tweeted here, if it's going to come up, that he tweeted, I think he was replying to someone in power, like a Senate or something. He said the Fed must cut rates immediately to stop a severe recession. I'm trying to see if his tweets are in this article. I don't think they are. Well, they are. They're all just quoted, kind of thing. But even Elon Musk is like chiming in on it now as well. So, and he doesn't really get involved with like macro or specific crypto in terms of, like, obviously he tweets about Doge, kind of makes remarks about that, but he doesn't kind of give his input in the way that, like, for instance, with the way that the Fed are dealing with interest rates. So the fact that he's jumped in on it as well is pretty big, in my opinion. What we see on the back of this, it's tough to see. Well, I think the 75% likelihood of a 50 basis point increase now, I think, on the 13th or /14th of December, when the FOMC meeting is, it is bullish. Are we starting to see a bit of a pivot? I think it's too early for that to say that yet. I think that will be coming later on in 2023, like we all said in the newsletter as well. But nonetheless, it's good. It's good to see that we're finally seeing a little bit of a change in their narrative.
Yeah, I think we see a slowdown. Potentially, I don't know if we see one as early as December, but it's the first time we've seen any suggestion of any dovish tone, when it's just been straight hawks coming from the Federal Reserve. So that's why I think the markets reacted as they did.
Yeah, I mean, look, we had a pretty good day. Nice little pump, but you can't see it. I need to do that. Basically came up from here there, but something we'll keep an eye on there for you guys. And final piece of news here, massive news here. Again, Brazil, a country that Will's been shouting about for months now. They've passed a new law to legalise crypto as a payment method. It still needs to, as you can see here, it requires approval from the executive branch to be enacted. But I'm pretty sure I watched a YouTube video of someone else covering this news yesterday, and they were sent some screenshots of people actually using it as a payment method. So Brazil leading the way. It's great to see. We could potentially saw this coming as well, because they've been so pro crypto. You couple this with the fact that Ripple XRP, for your XRP holders out there, they've got that partnership with Travelex. I think it is their first like government legalized bank kind of thing. So it's all looking very good in Brazil right now in terms of crypto. What do you think about it, Will?
Yeah, I think that you bang on with everything you've said there. I think that the video you're probably talking about is, I think there's like a little viral video going around at the minute with like some kids paying with like their Lightning Network card to buy, I think, bananas. So it shows that the technology can be used. There's a lot of unbanked people in Brazil, so you don't need a bank obviously to use crypto in general. But like you said specifically, that came straight to my attention was Travelex have permission from the central bank to trade foreign exchange as a bank, and Ripple have a partnership with Travelex, specifically using their ODL, on-demand liquidity, which leverages XRP to settle payments. They're not using that for all of their transactions at the minute. It's just some corridors. I think it's the corridors between Brazil and Mexico, but which would make sense because Mexico one of the first ever ODL customers for Ripple, with Bitso to the US. But again, it's tiny percentages of their forex. But what you need to understand is these rails are now in place for more liquidity to come on and more volume to come onto the XRP ledger, and this is exactly what we want to see. It's about creating network value for the ledger of XRP, and then the volume comes on, and then the token asset or the asset that moves the value around the network should over time increase in value, and that's how we look for this XRP price appreciation.
So back to the Brazil story. Just one thing I want to clear up: it's not legal tender like El Salvador, because I think a lot of people were getting confused with that. It's literally you can just use it as a payment method. So, but nonetheless, it's huge because like I think when we reported, anytime we report anything on Brazil, the one point I like to make is it's just such a massive country. It's not just some smaller country like El Salvador. Not taking anything away from them, but the fact that a massive, big, prominent country like Brazil are jumping onto crypto is just so good to see, and we're starting to see the dominoes fall now in terms of mass adoption phase coming in. When countries start allowing it as a payment method, they're the first initial stages we want to be seeing, and we can see it happening right now, and we're just at the end of 2022. Just imagine where we're going to be this time next year at the end of 2023. I'm excited to see what it brings, to be honest, and I'm sure next year we're going to see a lot more in terms of like news like this, countries accepting any type of crypto as some sort of payment method. We're going to start to see the integration of fiat and crypto kind of come together, I think, in the next year or two. So, and this is the start of it, but that is the news, every news topic that we're going to be covering this week anyway. Jump into the charts again, nothing really too much. We had the jump on the back of like Powell's comments, etc., and maybe it was something to do with this news story as well. But still, we're still in this range at the end of the day with Bitcoin. We've dove into it, I think, on our newsletter. So over the past couple of weeks, not going to get too much into it. Nothing really to stay on it really. I think for me personally, I'm waiting for the 13th/14th of December. I think we're going to get positive CPI results in. I can't remember if I spoke about it last week, but I spoke about oil and how in the month of October, oil's price was up, yet CPI came in fairly low. So are the other goods in the basket falling? I'd probably suggest so, yes. And then when we look at oil's price for November, it's actually down. I can't remember what percentage it is, but if we just take it from, let me find the 1st of November, around there to where we are now, it's 8% down. It did manage to get down, I think it's like 14. So it'll be interesting. I think December could be a good month for crypto. Again, this is me just speculating and just on the information I've got in front of me, but we shall see. Yeah,
we shall see. And if you do want to head over to the newsletter, I have actually dropped some alpha about a specific crypto. We're not obviously going to get into that because that is specifically for the newsletter holders, but I on a personal position and with a client have taken a decent bag in this specific crypto because I think it has some space to move in the short term.
Yep. And I think that's a wrap for this week, unless you want to add anything else, Will?
That's everything for me. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace up, A-Town down, as Usher would say.